focus on the US market, particularly in terms of the IT services community. So they really do need to start refocusing, because you can be sure that the American firms are doing exactly that, to focus on where the growth potential is for their businesses in Asia, in Europe, in other pockets of growth that they can find throughout the world. And I think the Asian-based, the Indian-based, the Chinese-based firms need to be balancing their client acquisition, both externally and internally.
But Chris, how does that play out for a company like yours? For Infosys, traditionally the US has been a big market for pretty much every company that does back and work out of India, provides services and solutions. Are you now saying, well, pause button here, let's look at other markets, including other emerging markets?
Yes, so we are all actually shifting our revenue streams from US, Europe to the rest of the world. But this transition is going to take some time, because out of $1 trillion of IT services spent, India is about 12 billion, right? It's such a small percentage at this point that it will take some time for that shift to happen. To me, the interesting thing is, what are the capabilities you need to have to serve these markets? Even if you are a product company today, you cannot take a product which has been developed for the US or the European market and bring it here, because the price points are different. So the innovation that is required to reduce the price will require you to think differently, design differently, and produce and manufacture differently. Similarly, we also need to be smarter in looking at what kind of consumer do you want to create? Do you want to create a consumer who mimics the US, or do you want to create a consumer who is more sensible and who is more concerned about environment and the issues related to sustainability and things like that? The question people ask always is, let us say when the per capita income goes to 5,000 or 10,000 and every single citizen takes a shower every day, can we afford to do that? Right? Because then our requirement for natural resources will far exceed what we are consuming today. So we need to actually create a new consumer, and that, I believe, is an opportunity for new innovation, new products to come out, and that is what I think is exciting about this shift that's happening for businesses.
But to what extent is there a mindset to do this? Because even if you look at all the climate talks, constantly the emerging countries will tell you, well, to the developed countries, you've been the biggest culprit here. So while we are growing, don't preach to us and don't tell us not to grow.
But it's in our self-interest. It's in the interest of our own companies and businesses. Just like in IT services, we have to come out with a new model for this market. The global delivery model is not relevant in India. There's no global delivery model possible in India. So we have to come out with a new business model, new value proposition for this market. The same applies, when you are looking at, a refrigerator or a car. You have to design, develop, manufacture for this market.
Kiran, to you quickly before we take a break. To what extent is the Asian consumer, does he have the mindset to say, I will buy goods or services made elsewhere? Or to what extent will companies say, well, let me ferret around and see what I can find in my own backyard?
No, I think the consumer, particularly in India, is willing to take on anything that provides them value for money, or provides her value for money. And we've seen that time and again, irrespective of what the product is. And today, of course, you asked the question earlier, India is already the biggest consumer, for example, of cell phones, and they come from all over. But I want to just add one slightly different point. Chris talked of sustainability, a very important point. But to me, when you look ahead, and look ahead not 2 or 3 decades, but look ahead towards the end of this century, sustainability is going to be key, and not just environmental sustainability, but social sustainability. And that is why when we were talking of Asia, I have some question marks. There could be a scenario where the social sustainability of the Chinese model is going to be a question mark unless they change drastically. And will China be China? Will it be 10 countries? I think there are question marks there. The second question mark I have is in relation to the movement as you move ahead. This is going to be the world of innovation and the knowledge industry. And knowledge industries are going to thrive on the kind of creativity that comes only from diversity. And when I look around the world, and that is why I mentioned the US yet being a power, because the US has been open. Its strength has not been its democracy, which is great, but it's what falls out from it, that it's an open country where ideas, you can differ with me, you're used to differing. You have migrants who come from all over the world, and that's their strength. India's strength is similar because we're diverse internally, and we have had for centuries and centuries people coming in and out of this country and staying here, and that's India's strength. China, that's not a strength. So when you look really ahead, as I said, not the next 2 or 3 decades where China is going to become a major power, maybe even the major power. When I look ahead 70, 80 years, I have question marks about how China is going to do vis-a-vis the US and India, which to me are going to be the powerhouses for innovation and creativity, which is what the future is all about.
Well, we're back to the debate about China, India and the US. We're taking a quick break right now. We'll be back in just a bit. Welcome back to our special roundtable at NASSCOM. Chris, just a while ago, Kiran was talking about China, and long term, I think he's not laying big bets on China. But would you tend to agree? Would you think China's clever enough, will change tack, and will emerge as a survivor? And
I believe so. It is a country that has a long history. Very proud people. They're very practical. They understand that they need to make sacrifices in order to succeed, and that is what I think will help them. And they are also thinking very holistically about this development. What kind of development they need to have, how they need to make sure that they remain as good citizens in the world. See, whenever there are issues related to Japan or border, etc., it is because they want to ensure that they actually listen to their people. The government is reacting. It's not because they want to rattle their saber and things like that. It's just to make sure that they let out the aspirations of the people and the demands of the people in a practical way. I think they understand that